Hello everyone, welcome to Cyber Weekly. The Cyber Week is a podcast which talks about cybersecurity with book reviews. With me, and I'm here to fix the Angela, then Josephine. I usually do and Josephine. Now it is and Angela and Josephine. That is not correct English, but anyway, yeah. So that's the team we are having currently. Today we are welcoming Richard, but before we continue, Angela and Josephine, do you have anything to say to our guests?
Thank you, Dale. Hi, everyone, and Richard, you're welcome to this podcast. We're very honored to have you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Ditto. I'll say the same.
Thank you.
Okay. I think Angela will take on the mantle of leadership again in reading the profile.
Oh, okay, Dale.
Yeah.
Okay, we are delighted to host Richard Kavanda, who is a network security and IT infrastructure engineer at ICX Express Inc. with a master's degree in cybersecurity and networks. His experience includes roles in cybersecurity, vulnerability testing, and IT systems infrastructure management. He holds certifications in CompTIA Security Plus, Sophos Firewall Certified Engineer, CCNA, Microsoft Certified IT Professional, and Cisco Certified Specialist in Data Center Core. Richard holds a Professional Development Award in Cybersecurity from the Toronto Metropolitan University in Canada, formerly known as the Ryerson University. He also is a member of Issaca, Connecticut, Hartford chapter, United States, and also a member of the Cloud Security Alliance, Hartford chapter in the United States.
Welcome, Richard.
Welcome.
Thank you so
Richard.
much. Thank you so much.
How would you describe yourself after all?
Well, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the team for having hosted me for the 29th Cybersecurity Cyber Weekly podcast. I can't take it for granted. Richard Kavanda is my name. I'm a Ugandan national, but based in the United States. I have over 12 years of experience in IT infrastructures, IT infrastructure configuration and management. But I also have over 3 years of experience in IT security. I started my IT career in the post office of Uganda in Africa, where I was mentored by the one and only lady whose professionalism and integrity cannot be matched easily by anyone, and that is none other than Josephine. And
Surely.
I continue to follow her on social media, and I'm proud to be a pure product of Josephine, and forever I'll be grateful. I worked as an IT as IT consultant with various USAID funded projects, studies and research in Uganda. But my last work in Uganda was with the AIDS support organization, TASO. TASO is a well-known Ugandan non-governmental organization that provides HIV/AIDS prevention, care, and support services to individuals that have and communities affected by the HIV/AIDS epidemic, TB, malaria, and it's largely funded by USAID, CDC, and the Global Fund. At TASO, some of my roles, I'll go through briefly some of my little experience for the time I stayed in TASO. I was in charge of maintaining and managing IT infrastructure for all the branches in the country, but I was also tasked with managing the IT infrastructure integrity of the organization. Currently, I'm working in the US with IC Express company. IC Express is a managed service provider. We do manage IT infrastructures for over hundreds of companies in the United States, and in terms of network monitoring, cybersecurity, data backup, recovery, cloud computing, help desk, and IT consulting. So recently, I graduated with a master's in cybersecurity from US. Before that, I studied network security and digital forensics in a Canadian university and received a professional development award. I'm married with 4 children, 3 boys and 1 beautiful girl. I think that's it briefly about me. Over to you.
Thank you for that. I didn't know you have kids, but it's good to know. Hopefully they're not older than me, but I'm praying I am older than them.
Thank you.
So you've told us a little bit about yourself. What your role currently? What does it usually entail? And on a day-to-day basis, how if you're walking someone through your day, how would it be like?
Thank you so much, Dale. My roles involve a wide range of responsibilities aimed at protecting companies' client systems. Like I've said, we do manage IT infrastructure for a number of companies in the United States and abroad. So my roles rotate around that, basically protecting companies, companies from cyber threats. I monitor client systems and network for signs of security incidents, such as unauthorized access attempts or malware infections, using security monitoring tools and technologies to detect and respond to security incidents promptly and minimizing the impact of cyber threats. I do quite a lot of analysis of security alerts, and the other thing that I do on a daily basis is patch management for endpoints and network devices to proactively address vulnerabilities, reduce the attack surface, and enhance the company's cybersecurity posture. Patch management, I just want to talk briefly about it. Sometimes I noted that when you talk about patch management, someone might think it's just a matter of, downloading or, downloading updates, installing, and that's it. But exactly, thank you so much. It's a very important activity and very rigorous process. It involves quite a number of things: identification of vulnerabilities, patch acquisition, testing. You have to test these patches before deploying them, especially when it comes to servers, to network devices like firewalls. You have to validate them and then come up with a deployment plan, because sometimes these patches might necessitate restarting a computer. So you have to plan also accordingly, look at a number of factors: severity, criticality. Basically it's a rigorous process, especially when it comes to a production environment. Cybersecurity awareness is another thing that we do, or I do, for clients. We do give them cybersecurity awareness, but I basically provide the guidance on how to recognize and report security threats. There is a report I saw on the internet, I think it was for Verizon 2023 data breach, where 74% of attacks involved a human element, and 1 out of 3 data breaches involved phishing. So when you look at the statistics, when they talk about 74%, 74% of the attacks involved the human element, then that really shows cause for cybersecurity awareness. Vulnerability management, security awareness, I've talked about that. We do testing, penetration testing, So basically, those are some of my roles on a day-to-day. But I also sometimes go into other duties like troubleshooting network infrastructures or network failures and things like that. Yes, thank you so much. Over to you, Dale.
Thank you for that comprehensive answer. You're spoken like a true master student.
Thank you. Thank you, Dale.
Now, when it comes to your masters, you've got it in cybersecurity. What
Yes.
inspired you to pursue this career in cybersecurity and networks, and how has your academic journey shaped you to understand the field?
Thank you so much, Dale. Well, I'll say maybe just a few things, like 2 or 3. One was the professional growth and opportunities that I had spotted ahead. You know, cybersecurity offers a wealth of career opportunities across different industries and sectors. And we've seen over time that the demand for cybersecurity professionals has continued to grow, and providing job stability, competitive salaries, and the diverse career paths within cybersecurity. But that's one of the things that really inspired me. But again, not only that, the other thing which I think was even more important was about my professional experience that I had gone through with data breaches and challenges of securing systems in various roles as I worked with IT infrastructure. So that motivated me, pushed me to specialize in cybersecurity. I can give an example. I think it was during the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. There were quite a number of data breaches, and the company I was working for was one of the victims. I remember one time there was a ransomware attack where the bad guys, I can call them the malicious actors, accessed one of my servers and installed the antivirus. It was Kaspersky antivirus, if I remember very well, and encrypted all the company files, including the backup system that was online. It was a disaster because this is something that I had not experienced. We had seen disasters. The time I worked with Josephine, we worked, we saw disasters and we managed to recover out of many of. But this particular one shocked me. I had not been hit by ransomware before. I remember trying to contact Kaspersky Russia, and they told him, you know what, there is nothing much you can do unless you have the criminal keys. But of course, you cannot tell who the criminal was apart from the contact and rather the email address they leave that, call if you want this, and you're not even sure. So I was like, now what is this? So those are some of the things that really pushed me to go in for a career in cybersecurity. And around that time, a number of other things happened. My Exchange server was also hit by cyber criminals. So it was disaster. But, again, it was a learning process because, I think that's the time I had to migrate the organization to the cloud. There were a number of lessons to learn. So about the academic journey, training with US, I normally call it a noble country. Others call it a magical country. Basically, I'll just say the United States, I must say, when it comes to cyberspace, they top all other nations. And starting from one of the best universities in the US, played a crucial role in shaping my understanding and expertise in the field of cybersecurity. But again, providing a strong foundation for success within cybersecurity industry. So again, I was also privileged to be taught by top professors from the security industry. So these have actually helped me to shape my career, like you asked. So, and it is something that I don't take for granted, but it's an opportunity that I also thank God and, over to you, Deo. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I think I'll pass the baton to Josephine.
Thank you, Deo. And Richard, thank you for your kind words. I feel like I've been privileged to be part of your career journey. So I'm very grateful to see how you've risen up in the ranks and successfully done so. So well done to you, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of that journey as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. So congratulations, you are a published author in the Journal of Information Security. That's a wonderful feat. Can you just share a specific aspect of your research in digital forensics and how it can be applied to real-world cybersecurity challenges that organizations are facing today?
Thank you so much, Josephine. Thank you so much. Well, so far, I have published 2 papers in security that have attracted the attention of many in the world. When I check the downloads and the views, wow, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, all these people are reading my papers, and, it gives you courage and, motivation. Specifically to talk about what you've just said. Okay, let me just go through briefly the papers. One of the papers was about the history, trend, mitigation of distributed denial of service attacks. Maybe for our viewers, distributed denial of service attacks basically block legitimate or authorized users from accessing the services. And when you read that paper, you will see that this started as far as 1974, when a 13-year-old David Dennis, who was a student in one of the universities in Chicago, managed to bring down 31 computers. Although this was kind of an experiment, but then from that time, the other programmers or the other security experts built and changed the code, to come up with more sophisticated attacks or DDoS attacks. So the other one was about collection of forensically sound digital evidence. And in particular, I'll talk about this as aspect for my research, as per Josephine's question. Digital evidence has been collected, by this, when we talk about forensically sound digital evidence, we mean digital evidence that has been collected, preserved, and handled in a manner that maintains its integrity and authenticity. The research guides on a number of things, on how an investigator can ensure that evidence is reliable and admissible to the courts of law. Very well, if evidence is not collected properly, it can have serious repercussions on the investigation and, any subsequent legal proceedings. So loss of credibility by the investigators, if you don't do it very well, so you're likely to lose your credibility. And again, poorly documented things like the chain of custody, I'm trying as much as possible that our viewers who are not taking are in a position to understand. When you talk about the chain of custody, for instance, if it's unclear, who has the evidence, we basically try to go through who handled the evidence, where was it, stored, that kind of thing. So it's a documentation that shows, how the evidence or the digital evidence has been, handled. So making it difficult to ensure that unauthorized individuals did not have the opportunity to alter it, But to answer the question specifically, when digital evidence is not collected very well, you're likely to incriminate the wrong, victims, or basically it helps to incriminate or clear someone from guilt. So, but it's one area, according to research, that shows many cases have been, destroyed because of that area, or that, area of collecting at the collection level. So you find someone has touched, put their fingerprints, or they've, destroyed the evidence. So just transferring evidence from one point to another, assuming let's take an example, it's a phone, you're moving it from one area to another, and then someone knows that, you're carrying that phone, and then they're able to hack in and then probably destroy the information. So basically, that's the area. And again, when we talk about the challenges, there are quite a number of challenges surrounding digital evidence or collecting sound digital evidence. And one of the challenges I'll talk about is the legal and jurisdiction issues. For instance, in some cases, digital evidence crosses borders. A case might have been committed, let me say, in Europe, but maybe you have to move evidence or the criminals to another country, that kind of thing. So the difference in the laws and regulations in different jurisdictions may make collection complex also again. But then we can also look at the specialized tools used, specialized tools used and trained personnel can be also expensive and resource intensive. These tools are quite expensive. Well, we do have those that are open source, but the tools are quite expensive, and not everyone is able to afford. The collection of digital evidence faces also other challenges of the widespread of like the use of encryption, which makes it harder to access data on digital media. Of course, also, technology keeps advancing, keeps changing. So the recent technological upgrades have impacted forensic solutions because the tools used may require either an upgrade or a change, which makes it expensive for the forensic examiner. So the other thing I can think about is collecting evidence from terabytes of data makes it difficult, because just imagine you're looking for specific information, but you have to, search through terabytes of data. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack, that kind of thing. So those are some of the challenges that I can talk about briefly that are surrounding digital evidence, and specifically collection of data or digital evidence. Thank you.
Thank you for that answer. I guess in a lot of cases where you've got cybercrime, nobody goes after the criminals. In your case, for example, where you got hacked, you're not going to go after the criminals because you don't even know who they are, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I guess in this case, you kind of know who you want to prosecute, and you're going after them.
Exactly.
And willing to go. Okay. Now that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with the increasing complexity and sophistication of cyber attacks, what strategies or best practices do you recommend organizations to enhance their resilience to cyber resilience and to protect their networks?
Thank you so much. Wow. There are quite a number of things that honestly organizations or companies must do. But I would say attacks have also become more complex than before. And the bad guys are using artificial intelligence, machine learning, both malicious actors and defenders are working tirelessly to outsmart, each other. You get it, exactly. So we've seen in some companies where budget is not a problem, or where the data is, they really have to protect the information, have gone ahead to deploy, the red team, the blue team. You know, the blue team is playing the role of the defensive, and then the red team is playing the role of the adversary, you know, trying to attack, and then these ones are blocking. But they're doing all this to, you know, try and see how they can reduce the attack surface as much as possible. One, I would say cybersecurity is an ongoing process. You cannot say, you know, I'm done and that's it. So, but I'll go through some of the few things that I think companies should do. And first, I will begin with, you know, I'll talk about people-centric security. You know, if companies can come up or employ a people-centric security approach, like I said at the beginning, 74% involve the human element. So it would be a good idea if these companies can go ahead to educate and monitor employees, not just educating or giving them awareness, but also go ahead and monitor them, you know, communicate major cyber risks and threats. You get it. So the other thing would also be to establish a robust cybersecurity policy. I would say this is kind of a formal guide to security specialists and employees on the best practices and how they can ensure employees know and following the policy, you know. So the other thing is about companies, you know, deploying secure and of course, every company is trying to do this, you know, secure the perimeter. But in this case, I'll talk about the IoT devices or IoT connections. IoT devices may include things like CCTV, doorbells, smart locks, heating systems. These are interconnected. I mean, they've become so many. And again, their security is not advanced. When I look at things here in the US, for instance, let me give an example of the heating system or the fridge. It's connected to the Wi-Fi. The washing machine is
even the CCTV.
The CCTV cameras, exactly. So, and we've again seen some attacks that have been launched, whereby these devices have been compromised to form bottlenecks, and like you find that a hacker is using them to attack, or in a denial of service attack, in a distributed denial of service attack, and is using them to attack or to send traffic to maybe one server, that kind of thing. So specifically, if companies can wake up and try to, look at their IoT devices, how they can protect them. Again, when you look at the statistics, I think over around 567 billion in 2027. They anticipate that in 2027, 567 billion IoT devices will be, out there in the whole world. And they said in 2021, I think it is 381. We had around 381 IoT devices. So you can see the anticipation is really increasing. So, and remember, the security for these devices is really not good. But again, also the vendors or the developer, the manufacturers of these devices, if they can really try to improve on the security, I think that would be very good. The other thing I can talk about is, combine, if companies can combine conventional protection measures. There are those traditional measures we all know, like, having a firewall, a VPN. So if these can also be incorporated with the zero trust model to protect, the company, I think that would be a good thing. When you look at the concept of zero trust, basically, let me say, never trust, but always verify. I'm sorry, the auditors normally say trust, but verify. But then we say never trust, but always verify. Zero trust requires users and devices in the organization to continually, be validated to prevent unauthorized access. So that's one other thing. Again, control access to sensitive data. I can talk about if, again, as part of the zero trust architecture, or if organization can try to employ the use of, to employ least privileges, you give users or employees only those permissions that they require, because, privileged access is only given to the right user. So to certain systems and resources for valid reason and for, a specific time. So in some cases, you find in an organization, people have, rights that they don't even need. So in the event such accounts are compromised, then they become a problem to the organization. I can talk about managing passwords. Passwords. I've seen, when you work in security, quite a number of things you see, and then you wonder. But then people have very, very simple and very, very short passwords. That's why sometimes even hackers or the bad guys compromising people, it becomes easy because someone will say, okay, fine. Oh, I want to compromise, or I want to attack Josephine. But what's her daughter's name? What is her son's name? Can I know their date of birth? And where is she working? And then you find the password is maybe because you love Richard so much, Richard at 1920. That kind of thing. You find someone is having a password, maybe, let me say Tasso at 2022, that kind of thing. So if companies can manage passwords as much as possible, I think that would be very good. We've seen a lot of credential theft through brute force attacks, social engineering, like I've said, without all this happening without employees knowing. So lengthy passwords can really, if a password is long, you're making it harder for this guy who is doing the brute force attack to break it. So, but also changing passwords regularly, never share passwords, such things. The other thing, there are quite a number of things, you can't exhaust the list, but again, I'll talk about managing supply chain attacks. For me, I think this is one of the weaknesses that organizations or companies have. Like, I don't know, some of them are doing it ignorantly. When I talk about supply chain attacks, just think about vendors, partners, subcontractors, suppliers, and other third parties with access to your organization resources. Maybe they're susceptible to supply chain attacks. I can give an example of the SolarWind attack. SolarWind was compromised. I can't remember very well the year. SolarWinds is an American company here. It was compromised, and all the companies that were using SolarWinds downloaded the malware, and they were all compromised. So you can find, and in countries like the US, you find governments, big enterprises were using SolarWinds. So that kind of thing. Some of these suppliers, sometimes we overtrust them. Someone supplies a computer, but you don't know what has been, put on the computer, so that kind of thing. So if we can find a way of managing, those insider threats are really becoming a problem. So, and the other thing, of course, I'll talk about patching. It's the first thing I talked about. One of the things that I do, applying updates to software or operating systems. You apply this fixes, to try and close the gap when it comes to security vulnerabilities, bugs, and such things. All improve, put the organization, or improve the security posture of the organization. Things like multi-factor authentication. Companies should also conduct regular cybersecurity audits. these audits help to assess the state of your organization's security posture. And, so again, audit would help to reveal vulnerabilities, compliance gaps, whether the company is complying to industrial or recognized standards. So sometimes when you do the audit, you're able to find out suspicious activities by your employees. Things like, one time I was working somewhere and there was this guy, but I was a bit, suspicious. But then when I did my audit personally, I noted that in Active Directory, the guy had given himself rights and he had access to HR folders. He had access to, he had put himself in various groups and he was accessing a lot of information. So you can find that, you can see that kind of thing. So that's where audit comes in to help. Yeah. And I would advise those doing cybersecurity reviews to look out for the forgotten assets, the misconfigurations, old firmware versions, old URLs. I was somewhere and we're doing we're doing a cybersecurity review, and there was this client. He said, "No, you know what? I don't want people to touch my application. I've had my application for the last 20 years. It is stable. It has never been attacked or hacked, So, but again, 20 years ago, there was nothing like secure software development. So, but the guy was really, changing the status quo wasn't easy for us, but we managed to convince him, and, after demonstrating to him that probably he had not become a target. Otherwise, if he becomes a target, it is easy to destroy the system. So briefly, that's what I can say, Josephine. But the list is long.
Yeah, thank you so much. You've given us a lot of information. We appreciate the level of detail. Maybe just to quickly go through, to summarize, I think you talked about people-centric security, having a cybersecurity policy, looking out for your IoT devices, having a zero trust model, password management, supply chain attacks or third parties, patch management, and frequent audits. I think you've given us really good information. So thank you. We really appreciate that. And I think our users will as well.
Thank you so much.
So thank you for that. Yeah. So the next question I was going to ask you was basically to walk us through an incident that you have faced. I know you talked about one where you guys got hacked, but you didn't tell us how you got out of it. I want.
Okay.
Yeah, you glossed over it, but I also wanted to understand how you have a background in both cybersecurity and networks, how those work when you're being faced with an incident. Do you put on both hats, or do you just deal with the cybersecurity thing, or tell us how that works as well?
All right. Thank you so much, Josephine. I will definitely first go back to where I talked about a situation where the organization I was working for was hacked by a ransomware, which I even still remember the name. It was called Ryuk, RYUK, ransomware. So I don't think I'll even ever forget.
You were traumatized.
I was traumatized because the pressure was too much. When you're working with a donor-funded organization and pressure is too much, and the donors, well, it's understandable, but I would say how we managed to go up through this was recovering from backups. But again, we were not up to date. That's the reality. Because that night, when the attack happened, there were backup devices that were online and were working. Were backing up. So all those got compromised. So we relied on what we had in the offsite, in our offsite backup facility, but which wasn't very, very. But of course, there were lessons to learn. that's the best or the most interesting thing. So how we got out of it, it was through restoring from backups. Oh, yes. Now to the next question. You've talked about having a background in both cybersecurity and networks. I'll say, I'll call it, I'll say it is invaluable. And, when you have both backgrounds in security and networks, it's an invaluable thing because, to me, it has helped me a lot when dealing with cyber incidents. Like I'm going to explain, you combine both knowledge, from the networks and then the security, and then you're able to come up with mitigation measures. When the two are combined, they allow for a comprehensive understanding of how threats exploit network vulnerabilities in particular, and how to effectively mitigate them. So I'll try to walk you through an instance. There are quite a number of instances, but let me just pick out one where our security and networking, had to come together to help me come up with mitigation measures. I'll talk about Wireshark, for instance. Wireshark is an open source network analyzer that both network administrators and security guys use to capture network traffic, analyze malicious nature and security breaches. So that tool is used by both the network administrators and the cybersecurity team. So again, it was one time when one client reported unstable internet. So when the client reported the unstable internet, sometimes you might think, no, the internet is stable. Maybe it will stabilize. Those days when we didn't have enough knowledge about cybersecurity or attacks, you would call the service provider immediately that, my internet is very slow, without even, checking out to see what the problem is. But in this particular scenario, when the client reported unstable internet, that it had gone on for quite some time, I took the initiative. I, of course, first of all, try to do a few things. You try to ping the gateway, do some trace routes and see, am I able to reach here? Where's the traffic stopping? That kind of thing. And, I saw some packet loss, which was an indicator of unstable connection. But then, sometimes one of the things we do, as IT, you restart, try to restart, maybe something is hanging. So I restarted, and that was a foul, but it was also working as a gateway. Then I thought maybe it was going to stabilize. But then I kept on, trying to, that continuous ping where you try to check, for packet loss and whether the connectivity is, And then I noted that there were a lot of packet loss. So that is the time I employed that network traffic tool that I've talked about, Wireshark, put it on the network to sniff or to monitor traffic that was coming from, outside. Then after some time, because, the user was trying to, was again, pressure had, mounted, and it was like, things are not working out. So I said, okay, fine, we're on top of your problem and it's being worked on. In a few minutes, we shall be giving you a report of what exactly is happening. So I analyzed the traffic using Wireshark. And then there are a few things that I remember saying. One, I noted that there were over 20,500 TCP connections, all coming from the same IP to the gateway, to the IP address of the gateway. Now, when you look at all those connections coming from the same IP, you interpret it as a DDoS or as a DDoS attack or a distributed denial of service attack. So I noted that, then there was a distributed denial of service attack. So I had to, try to understand where is it coming from and what could be the motives of these guys and why this particular company, So then when I continued to analyze, I noted that there were also ICMP packets. ICMP packets, I'll call them ping, when you ping, those are ICMP packets when you try to ping an IP address. So there were quite many. And then again, I noted this was what we can call maybe a ping of death. You're trying to, the attack is sending too much ICMP packets to this server or to the gateway so that it is overwhelmed by too much traffic. And in the end, it shuts down or restarts or even crashes. So it was something that was really not good at all. But then the thing is, what did we do? How did we go about this? I logged into the firewall. When I logged into the firewall, when I analyzed the logs, they are also indicating the same thing. And the file would say, suspected denial of service attack, suspected scanning, port scanning. So when I saw all this happening, I was like, I think now we need to find a way of resolving this. The first thing we did was to block the IP addresses. There were actually 2 IP addresses that were being used to attack. So we blocked the IP addresses to stop any connection or any communication that was coming in from that IP address to the gateway. Again, we had to do some patching because we noted that the firewall was missing some patches. So we did patch, and but the blocking of the IP address helped to resolve it. It wasn't really a very complicated thing. It helped us to resolve the issue. But in some cases, it might not be the case because these guys are also very smart. As you block this IP address, another one is coming out, as you're blocking this one, and sometimes there are quite a number of IP addresses. So in some cases, when such a thing happens, you might have to involve your ISP. You talk to them, you inform them that, I'm experiencing a DDoS attack, and then the ISPs can also help maybe to change DNSs, because at one point there was a situation where such a similar thing happened, but what we had to do was to change the DNS, and that again helped us to stop the DDoS attack. But there are quite a number of things. So that's a scenario where I must say I utilized the security bit of it and then the background in networking. Thank you, Josephine.
Wow.
Over to you.
Thank you for that comprehensive answer. Thank you. Over to you, Angela.
Okay, thank you, Josephine. And what I would like to add about the IoT devices, some of the funniest things that people do is to leave a vendor default passwords on their IoT devices. And you'd wonder why in 2024, why you still have admin 123 as your user credentials on a serious network. That's something people need to look into when you're using these IoT devices. They make usability easy, but security should come first. Yes.
Thank you so much. And when we're doing penetration testing, those are some of the first things we look out. We try out all the default password. If you note that there is a sonic firewall on the, let me give an example on the network. You start with those default passwords, and sometimes we succeed. You'll be shocked. And then you're like, what's happening here? Thank you so much, Angela. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, David, you've worked in Uganda and the US. And in your experience, what have you found to be the biggest differences in the two jurisdictions? Did you have any culture shock shifting?
Thank you so much, Angela. Of course, yes, there is a difference in certain things. There is a difference, as I'll try to explain. The cultural shock, like you've said, is definitely there. Our culture is totally different.
Yeah.
But I would say I'll begin by talking about cybersecurity awareness in the US, and as compared to countries like Uganda, where I've worked before. Cybersecurity awareness is significantly higher in the US. I don't know, maybe because it's driven by frequent high-profile breaches and strong regulatory environment. Now, in Uganda, cybersecurity awareness is growing, but remains less prevalent. And I believe there is need for more widespread education and training on cybersecurity best practices. I was talking to my young brother, a few months back, and we were discussing a few things. So he has a company, and I was trying to advise him on a few strategies that he had to take. And he was so shocked, and he was like, you know what now, Richard, now what can I do? Me, I don't know those things. I don't know those things. What can I do? So, I mean, and some of these things are easy. I mean, they are simple. You might not even need a budget or a big budget and things like that. There is a lot of free material on the internet, but because people don't know where even to find material to read. So that's one of the things that I noted. Then the other one that I've seen here in terms of regulation. Let me give an example. Like the US has a comprehensive and complex regulatory environment with numerous federal and state laws governing cybersecurity and data protection. But now when you go back home in Uganda, well, Uganda has made strides. They've made some strides in developing a regulatory framework for cybersecurity and data protection. I've seen, I think it was the Data Protection and Privacy Act 2019.
Yes.
Yes.
Also the Computer Misuse Act.
Yes, exactly. But now, one thing I noted is the enforcement and compliance. It can be inconsistent. So I think we need to do something there.
Yes, also goes back to also digital forensics. We are not yet there yet. So
exactly.
The evidence is where it's at. They'll try to incriminate people, but then when it comes to admitting evidence in courts, we don't have the framework for collecting and collecting and submitting digital evidence.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So again, when we talk about culture, I remember when I first came to the US, I went to the restaurant and I sat. I ordered for something to eat, and after eating, I just left everything on the table. I moved. I went. Because, for us in Uganda, our restaurants, when you sit in a restaurant, someone will come and then take your order, and then you eat, you leave everything there, and then, the waiter or the waitress will come and collect, and then you move. But then it was quite different here. So later on, I realized, and I was like, oh my God, what did I do? Anyway, there has been a lot to learn. So basically, those are some of the differences that I've seen. Regulation or regulatory, and then when it comes to awareness. But there are others. Sure.
Sure. And okay, so what advice would you give students or professionals that are aspiring to enter the cybersecurity field, especially those interested in research and publication?
Entering a cybersecurity field particularly in research and publication, is a rewarding and dynamic career path. So I would definitely advise those who want to enter into the industry to obtain industry recognized certifications, and also leverage on platforms. There are quite a number of free platforms like Coursera, Udemy, where you can get specialized courses, sometimes at affordable fees. Participate in cybersecurity workshops and boot camps, to gain hands-on experience and practical skills. I would also recommend joining professional bodies to network with professionals like ISACA, yeah, and then also stay current. You have to stay current because the field keeps changing. It keeps changing, so you have to stay current and follow cybersecurity news trends by reading blogs, such things, and journals. Those are some of the things I would recommend to those who are
interested in the field. That's true. Yeah. Because once you stop learning, you start becoming obsolete.
Yeah, and the field is changing. It's very dynamic because, like I said, the attack knowledge keeps changing. It keeps growing all the time. So the security methods you're using 2 years ago might not work today because these guys have also changed. And sometimes I tend to think the attackers or the bad guys, those malicious actors, they seem to be ahead of us all the time for some reasons, So they have too much time, too much motivation.
They just want to show you that they can.
Exactly. So, whereas sometimes you're doing this as a defender, but again, you also have to do this, and the defending team is limited. So you realize that's why I must say those who want to come up with a career in security should really come, because there are quite a number of opportunities. These guys are many, and they are working as a team, so yeah.
The gap is there.
Yes.
Sure. And looking ahead, what trends do you see shaping the future of cybersecurity?
The future of cybersecurity is, I would say, it is poised to be shaped by several key trends, driven by things like technology advancements and the evolving threats. When you look at artificial intelligence, machine learning, these are all being integrated into cybersecurity to enhance security, or rather threat detection, automate responses, and predict potential attacks. So AI and machine learning are really, shaping the future of cybersecurity. And I should say, when you talk about the skill here, I'll talk about AI and machine learning. So I'll talk about also, as more organizations move to the cloud, because we've seen quite a number of organizations moving to the cloud. Now, securing the cloud is becoming a priority. So if professionals or security teams can really also think about going into cloud security, or the skill here I can talk about is trying to learn cloud computing, cloud security, especially for the big cloud providers like AWS, Azure, Microsoft Azure, Google. So basically, those are the skills I'll talk about. AI and AML are really shaping the future of cybersecurity, and the migration to the cloud is also
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
Yeah.
Do you have any parting shots?
I'll say one to the fellow defenders. I'll say they have to think like an attacker all the time in order to come up with best solutions to mitigate and improve on security postures for organizations. But again, I would also urge them to watch out for weekends and public holidays. I have noted that most of these attacks happen. There are quite a number of attacks that happen on public holidays, weekends, and even overnight. These guys are also, they are very smart. They know that if I want to attack a person who is in Kampala, Uganda, what's the time difference? I'm in China, for instance. So, but what's the time difference? Because during the guys are there, they're doing monitoring, they're doing this and this. So sometimes we've seen most attacks happening on weekends, holidays, and during the night. I'll talk about for holidays specifically. We've seen most phishing emails. Let me say, the other time it was Mother's Day, and then we were receiving a lot of phishing emails to do with, Mother's Day. And because, it's Mother's Day, and then you can easily be tempted to click, if someone collected enough information about you, probably it will appear it's coming from your son or from your daughter. And before you know it, you're definitely a victim. And lastly, I'll just try to advise our governments if they should, if possible, if they can deploy like cyber squad teams to help, to provide a platform where companies or individuals can report cybersecurity attacks or suspects. I think that would really improve. It would be a game changer, because there are so many victims out there who are suffering, and some of them don't know what to do. They don't know where to report. I've seen, like in the US, there is the FBI Cyber Task Force, and these guys have tried to do awareness. When you see something that is funny, you can always notify, and they will straight away work on the issue. I can give an example. For instance, I was talking to some friends of mine. Two of them received suspicious emails. They applied for visas. They are Kenyans, and they were coming to the United States. But then they got some feedback like that looked to be it was coming from the US Embassy. And so because they knew I was in security, they contacted me, and I asked them to forward me the emails. I analyzed the headers of the emails, and indeed, the emails were not coming from the Kenyan embassy. So I wrote an email to the FBI, because I got this email when we went for a cybersecurity conference in Hartford, and they responded immediately, and they got back to me, and a team was deployed. So you can see that kind of thing. So, but it was funny. It was really advanced. When you look at these emails, that they were really advanced, that just mere clicking on the link, it would open up another email, or rather a website, where you would put your details that is looking exactly as the other for the Kenyan embassy. So wow. That kind of thing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David.
Thank you. Richard.
Sorry, thank you so much, Richard.
Thank you, Richard. Well, this has been amazing.
Thank you so much, Josephine.
Thank you so much for your time. You've been, so wonderful in your answers, so detailed, and I know our audience will really, really like these answers. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Dale, thank you so much. I salute you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Richard.
Yes, Dale.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I felt like I'm in a master's class because I was like, okay, I'm like, everything felt like it is clicking. I'm like, okay,
We're
this is
in
what I've
class.
been studying. I'm like, yeah.
Thank you so
okay.
much, Dale. Thank you. I
So,
really appreciate it.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, just help me thank Josephine. When you meet her, please just give me a hug for me, because she picked me. Josephine picked me when I was a baby. I think I'd gone to post office to do internship. I
Yeah.
was a baby, and she was like, "Richard, would you like to work with us?" Honestly, I didn't even. I've not been in those struggles of looking for jobs. So she gave me my first job, and she mentored me. She trained me. But again, we kept in touch, and I mean, she's been amazing. But because I was a baby, she also treated me like, her own child.
Baby.
I don't know if Josephine remembers. She even contributed towards my first TV, because that time I was coming from home.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, she cannot remember, but she can't remember. But I was coming from home. I was staying with my mom, and then I had to move, to my rented apartment. But it was empty, when you're just starting life. And so Josephine would ask me, "So Richard, how do you spend your free time like this?" And then she contributed towards my first TV, so that I don't get bored. So interesting. All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you for hosting me.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Take care. We'll be in touch. Bye. Take care.
In the end scene, we are having episode 14 with Emily May Mara. So we check out that episode. Other than that, follow Richard on all the socials, and also follow all of us on all the socials plus the Cyber Weekly. Other than that, see you in the next one.
Bye. Bye, Richard.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.